Vadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishware Rishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well, we started the 4th chapter. Oh, this is still marked on the 3rd chapter. Let's see, 4, 5 we're up to. It has a long purport. The next 4 verses after this. What are we looking at here? Okay. So I gotta get back to the other page. 4, 5. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Taniyaham veda sarvani.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Janmani tarva charjuna.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Anyaham veda sarvani.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Natvam veda parantapa.
Natvam veda parantapa. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. Bahuni me vyatitani. Janmani sarva charjuna. Tanyaham veda sarvani. Natvam veda parantapa.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Taniham veda sarvani.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Natam vetaha parantapa.
Natvam veda parantapa.
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Sri Bhagavanuvacha
Bhagavanuvacha,
बहूनि मे व्ययातीतानि
Bahuni me vyatitani
Vyatitani,
जन्मानि तवाचार्जुन
Janmani Tavacharjuna
तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि
Tanyaham Veda Sarvani
न त्वं वेद परन्तप
Natvam Veta Parantapa.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha,
Shri Bhagavanuvacha.
Vacha,
personality of Godhead said,
The
Personality of Godhead said,
Bahuni,
Bahuni,
many,
many,
hey,
many
me
of mine,
of
of my
mine,
Vyatitani,
Vyatitani
money
have passed,
have
have
passed,
Janmani,
Janmani,
births,
birth
births,
Tava,
Tava
of yours,
of
of
yours,
yours,
Cha,
Cha,
and also
and
and
also
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
O Arjun,
O
O
Arjuna,
Arjun,
Ani,
Tani,
and
those,
those
Aham,
Aham,
I,
I
Veda,
Veda,
do know,
to
to
do
know
know,
know
Savani,
Sarva,
Sarva,
all,
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 na,
Na,
not,
Not,
not
from,
Tvam,
Tvam,
from
you,
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 Eta,
Veta,
Veda,
no,
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 Prantapa,
Parantapa,
Abba,
O subduer of the enemy.
O
O
subduer
subduer
of
of
the enemy.
enemy.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So we're going to go back to the previous verse just to refresh your memory. Arjun said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science through him? So this is what Krishna told him. I instructed the science to the sun god millions of years ago. And, you know, he's older than you. How can you instruct him? So now Krishna, Sri Bhagavanuvacha, said, personality of Godhead said, many, many births, but you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. In material world, Krishna is actually the source of remembrance and forgetfulness. And generally speaking, you don't remember what happened in your previous life. And some people have some idea of certain little main significant things that they can remember from their previous life. But generally, you don't remember. Generally, in this life, you don't remember most everything. And as you get older, you forget even more and more. I was talking, someone was telling me how they go to the refrigerator to get something, and then when they go in, they think, what was it I came in here for? You know, I go up to my room to get something and I forget what it is that I came to get. So I walk out and then I think of it and I go back and get it. So as you get older, I saw some I don't know what you would call it, scientific data video about there are certain people who can remember everything of every day. They can tell you what the weather was like. You know, well, at least with one person, it was mainly 3 or 4 different women. They're all women. I think women, his memory is one Bhagavad Gita that says something that they have. But they were tested. They had scientifically tested them. They wrote down all different days, found out like the weather, found out different things about the different events that happened at that time, big events. They remembered everything. It was like, and then they put them in an MRI and they saw that there's a part of the brain that they have active or is larger than normal brains. So anyway, this is this life only. They haven't asked them in previous life what you did. They should probably ask them that, but that's harder to prove. But here we can understand that we do not have perfect memories. There are some people that call Shruti Dvara, where they can remember everything they hear. They can remember it. And that was 5,000 years ago. Everyone was like that, and you didn't need any scriptures because people heard it once and they remembered it. We can chant a verse over and over and over and over and over, and we still don't remember it. You know, some people have a better aptitude for memory, and certainly when you're younger, it's better. So I'm going to start reading a little bit of the purport. In the Brahma Samhita 533, we have information about many, many incarnations of the Lord. So, I mean, just this part, without even going into reading the Sanskrit yet, many, many incarnations of the Lord. So he doesn't only remember Lord Krishna, he remembers even all these other incarnations. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning. Although expanded into unlimited forms, he is still the same original, the oldest, and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually understood by the best Vedic scholars, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. So here he's got so many different forms, so many incarnations. You can remember everything from every single incarnation. It is also stated in the Brahma Samhita 539, Ramadi Murtishu Kalani Amena Tishtan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Svayam Samabhavat Paramapumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is always situated in various incarnations such as Rama, Nrsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well, but who is the original personality of Godhead known as Krishna, and who incarnates personally also as Krishna. So many incarnations. I've been thinking about like Lord Ramachandra. If anyone lived during Lord Ramachandra's time, any normal person, especially any devotee, would immediately become so attracted to Lord Ramachandra because he's all attractive. Now, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's a greater form. But I would think that if you first contacted Lord Ramachandra, you establish a relationship with him, it would be very difficult and probably even wrong to give up that taste and go to Krishna. You already have that. So even though Lord Ramachandra, Krishna is greater than Lord Ramachandra, if you were there, because even if you, of course, I read other books, Prabhupada's books before reading the Ramayana. But by reading the Ramayana, he's so attractive, Lord Ramachandra. different than Krishna. He's like the best person. Of course, he's the ideal king. He's just he does everything right. He's such a good, wonderful person. You got to be attracted to him. And Krishna is, in one sense, very different. He doesn't always do the right thing. He does the right thing because he does everything, whatever's pleasing to his devotees. But as far as following any particular etiquette, he may break that etiquette in order to satisfy his devotees. So there are different incarnations and they're all unique. But I was thinking also like of deities. If generally, I think the deities that you first worship, you become attached to them. And they may be your I don't know, you're most attached to them, more attracted to them, even though later on you may worship other deities. I don't know if that's just, if I'm wrong in that, but I kind of think that way. So we're going to continue here. This is basically how Krishna can remember everything because he's God, Vishnu Tattva, and as Jiva Tattva we cannot. So in the Vedas, also it is said that the Lord, although one without a second, manifests himself in innumerable forms. He is like the Vaidurya stone, which changes color yet still remains one. All those multi-forms are understood to be the pure, unalloyed, understood by the pure, unalloyed devotees, but not by a simple study of the Vedas. Vedeshu dulabam adulabam atma bhakto. So you can study the Vedas, you're not going to understand these forms, but if you're a devotee, you can understand. So devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord. And whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. So this is the whole system. Devotees like Arjuna, they're constant companions. Now some devotees go for the first time before going back to Krishna Loka, before going back to Vaikuntha Loka. They first go to a universe within this material world where Krishna is performing his pastimes, and they join in those pastimes. That's like their training, how to behave properly, the proper etiquette. So they take birth on one of these planets, and they automatically, because they've been a devotee, become attracted to Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, and at the end of that life, they go back to the spiritual world. But some other devotees have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Their transcendental relationship with Krishna's transcendental travels through every single universe and perform their pastimes with Krishna. And Arjuna is such an associate devotee. So he also incarnates in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. Arjuna is one of these devotees. And in this verse, it is understood that some millions of years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivasvan, Arjuna, in a different capacity, he may not have been a warrior, but he was there doing service for Krishna in a different capacity, was also present. So he was present, but he doesn't remember. But of course, Krishna remembers. But the difference between the Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. Not only Arjuna couldn't remember, he's even questioning Krishna. How can you possibly say you taught this to the Vivasvan millions of years ago? How can you teach him when you're only, 100 years old or whatever age he was at the time? The Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. this is the difference. There are many differences, but this is certainly one big difference between the part and parcel living entity, that's us, and the Supreme Lord. He's eternal. He has an eternal spiritual body. He doesn't forget anything. Whereas we, even if we remembered everything in this life, we still don't know what we did in our last life. So although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in his various past births. Because this is millions of years ago. So how many births was that? How many births did Arjuna take in those millions of years? So he can't remember. How I can't even remember my last birth, let alone millions of births, or hundreds of thousands of births, or thousands of births, whatever it may be. So therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Interesting how they can never equal the Supreme Lord, because they can't remember even what they did in past lives. They can't even remember what they did in this life. They can't even know what you're thinking. People think they're God. Okay, what am I thinking? I remember talking to, what was his name? Bhadraj, and I was, and he said, because I was also in this illusion of being God, and he said, "Tell me what I'm thinking," and I said, "You're thinking of God," and he said, "No, I'm thinking of dog," but I thought, dog is also God. Everything is God. So, but I didn't try to argue with him. But that didn't really defeat me when he said he was thinking of dog and not God, because if everything is God, then dog is also God. I did eventually get defeated, but at that time I wasn't. I didn't just accept that. But of course, he could have explained. Now, don't you think God knows exactly what you're thinking? Not that you're just thinking of God. Anyway, so we don't know anything. And we can't even remember what we did exactly a day ago at this time. Although at this time we might remember, because we may have been listening to class. So anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible. What's the word for infallible?
Achyuta.
Yes, who said that?
Padmalochini Devidasi.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Yes, you are correct. Achyuta. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible, Achyuta, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Because he doesn't really touch, he's always in the spiritual world. Whereas Lord Shiva actually touches and he gets in contact with the material world. So therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects. We're equal that we're the same quality, but not the same quantity. So even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna, I see. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects, even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna. Although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord. But by the divine grace, a devotee can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord, whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand this transcendental nature. So by the mercy of the Lord, the devotee can understand, even though the Lord is merciful to the non-devotees, to the demons, they cannot understand. So consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demoniac brains. It says that this is the most secret of all secrets. So it's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's the most secret of all secrets because it's presented to everyone openly. It's an open book. But some people can get this special secret message out of it, and others get nothing at all. I was reading Bhagavad Gita at my brother's funeral, and I was reading it out loud, but softly. And my aunt was sitting next to me, listening to everything I was saying. And I was feeling so transcendental, so like thinking that my brother is still the same. He hasn't changed. He just left that body. What that body is nothing. It's just matter. And I had some really good realizations. I was reading the second chapter. And then when I finished, at least I finished what I was up to, my aunt, who I'm thinking she's listening so attentively to me, she turns to me and said, "Do you understand any of that?" And then I thought, it's just useless. She heard all this nectar, all these verses that were so clear, crystal clear. She couldn't understand any of it. But I had another aunt, and at my mother's funeral, I spoke some verses from Bhagavad Gita. But before I spoke, the priest and my aunt, she was going to be a nun. She's very religious Catholic. She didn't become a nun. She wound up just getting married, having a family. But she was still very religious and always goes to church. But after the priest spoke, and then I spoke, and she told me what I said made a lot more sense than what the priest said. I mean, and I was saying how you're not the body, you're the soul. And the priest was saying something weird. They don't have an idea. They have no idea. This is Catholics of exactly what you are. You know, you just go on. It's so simple and clear, this philosophy. So some people can understand, you know, if they're devotees. And if they're not, they really can't understand. Whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand this transcendental nature. Consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demoniac brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note herein that a living entity forgets everything due to his change of body, but the Lord remembers because he does not change his Satchidananda body. So he doesn't change his body, so he remembers. We change bodies, we forget. He is Advaita, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relationship to him is spirit, whereas the conditioned soul is different from his material body. And because the Lord's body and self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity, even when he descends to the material platform. So he's not different from his body. He is his body. When the devotee comes, he has to take a body. He gets a body. He gets a material body. But Krishna does never get a material body. Krishna is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. His body is Satchidananda, which is also eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. He's not different from his body, so he can remember. We forget because we change bodies. And sometimes people may say, well, there's people who can remember. Yes, very rarely, and just a few facts. And most people who get regressed, there are people who regress you to a previous life so that you know. And everybody I have ever heard who was regressed, it was always a human being. They never remembered being a dog, a cat, a tree. It's always a human being, and almost always it's some kind of royalty. They're not even just an ordinary person milking cows out in the field, but they're special. And then you pay them money to hear this stuff. It's not that you can't regress. It's not that we can never know what our past lives are. But one thing is, it doesn't make one bit of difference what it was. Why should I care? Why should I waste my time with that? I just try to surrender to Krishna, think of Krishna, not think of what I was in a past life. But to at least understand that I did have a material body in my past life. This isn't like the first time I've fallen down into this material world. I've been here for millions of births. I don't know what they are, what they were. I want to just end them. That's all. I don't want it to happen again. Well, Krishna doesn't change bodies, and he remembers everything. And because the Lord's body and self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity, even when he descends to the material platform. The demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following verse. These next 4 verses are really good also. So you should definitely attend if you can. So I'm not going to read the next verse because someone else is going to read it, but I'll go over this verse again, Sanskrit and English. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani tava Jarjuna Tani aham Veda Sarvani Natvam Veta Parantapa. The personality of God had said, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Any questions, comments? Just had to look up, see if anybody was still here.
You were saying, just a comment, you were saying that, did you want questions first?
No, fine. I don't think there's any questions. I said everything clear, everybody understands.
Yes, you were very clear. The comment was, you said the deity that someone worships first is what they get attached to, you know.
I don't know if that's a fact. I know it seems that way, but I didn't really do a scientific
Yeah, I don't know if that's a
study.
fact either, but I was introduced to Lord Krishna by my grandmother when I was like only 5-6 years old, you know, so that was the one I was attracted to most. But so we're talking about the Ramayana, we were also very attracted to Lord Rama's stories, you know, and the Ramayana stories that my grandmother also related to us. And in the South where I came from, they actually worship Lord Ram quite a lot also,
Lord,
you know, very popular.
what? You said they also worship Lord Ram by the lot?
Meaning to say, there was, you know, a lot more importance given to the Ram Navami and all the festivals of Lord Ram. And mainly my grandmother and our whole household chanted the Rama mantra on a daily basis. So that's what I mean. But Ram was given a lot of importance, you know, for a holy name and deity.
Yeah, I can see why.
So we chanted the Ram mantra every day, you know, on beads, but I remember, like, when I was about 15 years old, I was thinking, but I was attracted to Krishna more than Lord Ram. Not that I wasn't attracted to Lord Ram, but I was chanting the Ram mantra all the time, and I was thinking, like, it would be so nice to have a mantra that had both Krishna and Ram in it, you know, because I didn't know the Hare Krishna mantra at the time. And it was like, I remember actually really praying one night, you know, when I was about 15, it would be so nice to have a mantra that had both Krishna and Ram in it. And then, when I was 20 years old and came to this country, I guess I got a mantra that had both Krishna and Ram in it. So I just kind of wanted to say, when you said we are first attracted, you are it. I mean, I was attracted to Krishna, but at the same time, we were chanting Lord Ram's mantras. But you want like Krishna also in the mantra because you're attracted more to him.
So now you have the mantra, and now you have so many rounds. Every day you have to chant. You asked for it.
But actually now when I chant Ram, I think of Balaram too, so now it's like everybody. It's a big party. Krishna, Ram, Balaram, everyone's there.
Yes, it's true.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Very well. Dandavad. Just would like to add one comment to Gitamala Mataji's comment. Same like Gitamala Mataji, I was also introduced to Lord Krishna from my since my birth, and also to Lord Rama. So I was attracted to both of them, but in my, like, I don't know, 20, when I was 22, 23 years old, when I read Chaitanya Bhagavat, I mean, I could not, like, move my mind from Lord Chaitanya. I thought that was the most touchy pastime. I mean, I knew pastime of Krishna, I knew pastime of Rama. It's not that I did not know, but even after knowing that, I thought nothing can be sweeter than Gauranga pastime. I mean, unfortunately, people don't read Chaitanya Bhagavat, or don't propagate Chaitanya Bhagavat. So that's all.
So you're trying to disprove my theory.
No, Prabhu, no. I just wanted to share that,
Don't talk.
But Omio, you also know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also Krishna himself, right?
No, of course. But again,
Well, we could also say that about all the incarnations.
Right. We could also say that
But they
about
are
all the
different.
deities.
no, even not even that, Mataji. For example, Krishna, when he was in Vrindavan, he was Krishna. Krishna when he was in Dwaraka, he was Krishna. But we don't worship the Krishna in Dwaraka. We only worship Krishna in Vrindavan mostly, right? So it doesn't matter whether he is Krishna. I mean, he is Krishna, not whether he's Krishna. I mean, still Gauranga pastime. If you read, I will be very surprised if someone won't fall in love with Gauranga. That's so sweet. Unfortunately we only read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's a leftover pastime of Gauranga. That's not a complete pastime. So if anyone reads Chaitanya Bhagavat or Chaitanya Mangal, that's
The
I don't know how.
Chaitanya Charitamrita gives the whole philosophy. That's why it's so important. You get the pastimes and the philosophy, whereas in other books you get the pastimes and you don't necessarily get much philosophy. So that's why Chaitanya Charitamrita is more important for people who don't know. It's not just the stories, but it's also why. That's why it's considered the most important. But as far as for liberated souls, even liberated souls, Srila Prabhupada really liked reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's certainly a liberated soul. And then Bhakti, I think it was Bhakti Siddhanta said that people will learn Bengali just so they can read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So these great liberated souls are stressing more Chaitanya Charitamrita than the others. Not that the others are they're nectar. They're definitely nectar, but for some reason they like the Chaitanya Charitamrita better. So therefore, following in the line of the cyclic succession from these great acharyas, I have to say I would read the more important to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Not that you can read the other books too.
Yes, Prabhu, I completely agree and understand why. But my understanding, I don't know, just my speculation. The only reason, like, the acharyas might have emphasized on Chaitanya Charitamrita because that established the identity who Lord Chaitanya actually is. So once you know, for example, like, if I come to temple, if I clean the restroom, like, people will say, okay, Omio is a nice devotee. That's all. But if they know that, okay, Omio was like president or senator, that they would appreciate my service more. So if they know that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, which Lord Chaitanya Charitamrita established, it's very important,
Right. So that's why it's more important. You first have to understand who Krishna is or who Chaitanya is and the whole idea of how he is and why he came and all these things. Then when you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, then you can appreciate it so much more.
Exactly, Prabhu. But most of the people don't read Chaitanya Bhagavat, like even after reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if you don't know, how will you know Gauranga's pastime? And if you don't know the pastime, how can you love him? One thing is that okay, he is the Supreme Lord, but if you don't know anything about him, how can you love him? I'm very surprised devotees in ISKCON
How can you
love
say
ISKCON.
if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you don't know Lord Chaitanya? How can you not know him? There's so many pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. You're saying there isn't any.
No, I did not say Prabhu. I said it's a leftover. Whatever, and that's not what I am saying. That's what is called Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami himself said. It's a leftover from whatever was left over by.
He says he's lame, he has no abilities, he's fallen. He says all these things about himself. So should we think they're all true?
No, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu, but that's the fact, though. These are not facts. These are his humility, but these are facts. For example, talk about all the pastimes. I mean, all important pastime. Mahaprakash Lila. Is it in Chaitanya Charitamrita? No. And then the most used quote we use, like Prithivite Achirata Nagaradi Gram. Every village and town, my name will be spread. Is it in Chaitanya Charitamrita? No. Like, and you can say, like, Mayapur temple, it says Adbhutek Mandir Hoive Prakash Gaurangan Nittolila Hoive Bikash. So, like, a wonderful temple will be built and Gauranga's pastime will be flourished. Is it in Chaitanya Charitamrita? No, it's in Chaitanya Bhagavat. And there are many, many sweet pastimes that are in Chaitanya Bhagavat. That's not even in most of the pastimes in Chaitanya Bhagavat. That's all I'm saying. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is very, like, only maybe highlights. That's all.
Well, another thing is, at least for myself, I don't know about others. I can't read Bengali, so I have to read a translation. And I don't know which is a bona fide translation. So
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has a Chaitanya Charitamrita written in English. It's in even it's on ISKCON website, I believe.
Chaitanya Charitamrita, you just said.
No, Chaitanya Bhagavat. I'm sorry.
You see, even you.
No, he wrote Chaitanya English commentary.
Lord
English commentary.
Lord Chaitanya made you say that.
Okay, bro. But all my point is, I'm still very surprised. Like, how can one love, even if Supreme Lord, without knowing all his pastime or most of his pastime?
You
And
can't
most
know
of it,
most of his pastime.
and it's
Prabhuji, may
and
I add some?
yes.
Yeah, actually, Prabhupada also, as Prabhu was mentioning, he got Chaitanya Chaitamrita while he was onboarded on the Jalduta, and he was getting, he was saying, I was getting so much solace reading Chaitanya Chaitamrita, and also I have seen so many devotees of ISKCON read Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangal. I have also read Chaitanya Mangal by myself. So I don't see any discrepancy that devotees are not reading Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Yeah, I was also going to say
They are
that many ISKCON
great.
devotees have read it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I have also heard people reading over the call, and I have heard so many pastimes from Chaitanya Bhagavat. And devotees say, one devotee I know, they were saying the pastime from all of the three books, like Chaitanya Chaitamrita, like suppose the marriage of Vishnu Priya and the Lord, right? It is elaborately mentioned in Chaitanya Mangal. So, I see a lot of devotee reading those books because they are really nectar.
Yes, Mataji. Of course, and this is the only way I get all those Gauranga pastimes in website. It was done by ISKCON devotees. But when I say devotees, I mean I say most of the general devotees. I don't know. My experience is only limited to our congregation, ISKCON devotees. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying. Of course, ISKCON. or if you hear all the Maharaj, when they talk about Mahaprabhu's pastime, I mean 95% of the time they quote from Chaitanya Bhagavat. They might not mention Chaitanya Bhagavat, but the pastimes are for Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Mangal. So all I'm trying to say,
That's mean they read that very
yeah,
nicely.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Of course, that means that they read it. That's the only point I'm trying to make is that nobody can know the pastimes just by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that's all I'm saying.
You can know
Well, it
all you
proves
need to know by just reading Chaitanya Charitamrita.
So can I ask a question now?
And you should read all of Prabhupada's books first, in my opinion, before reading other books. If you're following in this line, if you're following in another line, you could do that. But if you're following Prabhupada, every one of us should first read all of Prabhupada's books at least once, at least before reading any other books. That's just being faithful and chaste. He's giving us what we need. He said, everything is in my books. You don't need to read anything else. Everything is there. Now, what do you mean everything is there? It doesn't say this, it doesn't say that. But I don't need that to go back home, to get back to Godhead. I don't need that to become completely pure. Everything, I mean, unless you don't accept what Prabhupada said, but he did say, even when some devotee wanted to write down all of his lectures and all of his morning walks, everything, which they did do, and it is on database. But he asked Prabhupada, is it okay if I do this, you know? And Prabhupada said, there's no need to do that. Everything is in my books. Don't do it. He told him not to do it, because it was done anyway. Because those instructions are maybe more to just an individual. May not be applied to everyone. But his books, everything is in his books. We don't need anything else. People think they need more. Then there was another devotee. One time he was Prabhupada's secretary, Sanskrit scholar, and he was traveling with Prabhupada. And then he left Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said the reason he left is because he read too many books. So we should first really know Prabhupada's books. Then we can read other things. Then we won't get misled. Otherwise, sometimes we may get misled by reading too many things. Okay, Nanda Gopal. At least we got a nice heated conversation, thanks to Omio.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was really nectarian. My question is, you mentioned regarding deity. Gita Mala Mataji also asked. So while you were speaking in the class, I had like for a neophyte devotee, if we have a local temple and we have a central deity, what should be our mood for like home? Should we aspire for having deities at home, or should we just keep like a small picture on the altar, worship that, and the local temple deity is the deity we try and worship? What should be our mood, and what would be your recommendation?
Well, it's not my recommendation. First of all, it's Bhakti Siddhanta's recommendation. He would not have any of his disciples have deities. They would just have the picture of the local temple deities, unless they were worshiping deities before they got initiated. Then he would let them continue worshiping them. Otherwise, no one had deities at home that they worship. Srila Prabhupada said, you can have deities if you live far from the temple and you can't go to the temple. Then you can have your own deities. Otherwise, you should go and worship the temple deities. So this idea has somehow, everyone got this idea, maybe reading other books, I don't know. But somehow, and everybody has deities. But it wasn't, we can have pictures. You can offer to pictures. You can do your worship to pictures. When we did Traveling Sankirtan, I built a little altar. We had pictures in there. And we put them to rest at night. We woke them up in the morning. We worshiped them. And it was just pictures. So where it's not advisable, but everybody does it now. So many things have changed so much since Prabhupada left. So he was giving us the essence, the very highest standard. I'm sure he knew very well that people are not going to follow this completely. So whatever adjustments were made, people are doing that. But that was his standard. Everyone worshiped the temple deities. I know devotees living in a temple who have Radha Gopi Vallabha, the Boston temple, Jagannath, Gauri Tai, and yet they have their own deities in their own room they worship. I don't know if they did worship them before they went to Boston. I don't know. So I can't really say, but
I just read in the Bhagavatam that Brahmanas are supposed to have deities and Shaligram Shilas and all that in the house,
Well, I don't know where you're reading.
I just read, I'm in the,
Find it. Get the
I'll have
quote.
to find out and let you know. But I was actually thinking about that, what you had said before. Then I said, oh, here in the Bhagavatam, it says you should have a deity and Shaligram Shilas.
If you're not worshiping at a temple, yes, you have to worship the deity. Yes, you do. But if there is a temple, your local temple, you should worship the deity there. That's the standard Srila Prabhupada had said.
But I thought it said Brahmanas in their household. I'll have to find that and let you know.
They're not, it's not ISKCON. This is like thousands of years ago. Everybody had their own deities. Prabhupada talks about Vrindavan. There's like 3,000 temples. It's not just because there's big temples. It's in people's houses worship their deities. Everybody's mic is on and they're moving all over the place.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. In fact, our Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, also always instructing to serve the temple deity. Instead of keeping your deity at home, you make a temple deity as your deity, and if you want to serve, go to the temple and serve nicely the temple deity. That's what he used to instruct all his disciples.
That's the pure teachings from Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada, Bhakti Charu Swami, and some people, but that's what he said. We're not concocting this. We're just trying to do what it says to do.
Thank you,
So
Prabhuji. Thank you very
what
much.
the Acharyas say. We should follow the Acharyas. We shouldn't, and even if it says in the Bhagavatam, I don't know exactly what verse, and I don't doubt that it says that. You have to see time, place, and circumstance. What is the situation? We're in Kali Yuga. We have it's a lot different.
I agree with you. I just read that. That's what I was saying.
Right. I'm sure it says, I don't know exactly what it says, but I don't doubt it at all that it says that Brahmins should worship the deity. Because Brahmins should worship the deity, but they should worship the deity in the temple. We need more Brahmins here worshiping the deities. It's like it's
Hare Krishna.
almost impossible to go anywhere, at least with Jiva, because she has to worship the deities. It's hard to get people to do it, and it's a very simple service too. Okay, what was who's on next?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just one follow-up. I don't also remember exactly, but Prabhupada says that you should have deities in the, I'm not sure correctly, have deities in the home, chant your round and take prasadam with your family member and read Srimad Bhagavatam. So that mention of deity is for just the pictures, or like Gauranita deity or any other deity?
You should worship deities. That's the point. Every day you can do certain things, and I'm going to try to find that if I can here. Well, I believe it's in the 13th chapter, verses 8 to 12, but I'm not sure. Yeah, as for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feelings for these things. They're natural objects of affection. But when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy, because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, doesn't say deities, and have some discussions on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself, oh, here it says, and engage oneself in deity worship. So it doesn't say where even, but it says at home. Let's see, one need only chant the Hare Krishna mantra, accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. So one has to worship the deities. Doesn't mean he worships them at home, but if he's too far from a temple, then he has to worship him at home. That's the only time that Prabhupada says you can have deities. And Bhaktisiddhanta did the same thing. You would have the pictures of the deities in your home, of your local deities. And that would be your altar, and that's who you would worship. So he's saying deity worship is important. That's all he's saying. Not saying, at least in this verse, not saying, but he is talking in this verse of how you can live and be happy in Krishna consciousness with your family.
Thank you, Pyari Prabhuji.
Of course, now, I mean, it's a little harder because of this whole year of the pandemic, but soon we'll be able to, have programs again. We're hoping soon.
I just want to make a comment about the opening of the temple. Since we were discussing in the home, and Tulsi said, I also want to go, I also want to go. So I said, are you 16? Because there is a rule, only 16 and above can go. She said, I will ask Pyare Prabhu to make it 4, so that she can also go. And then she was just saying, sometime it so happened that you are not able to understand her. So she asked me, Jiva Mataji, what she's saying. So she was saying, then Pyare Prabhu will ask, what she's saying. And then Jiva Mataji will explain. I was just laughing that day.
Oh, there's other people I can't understand also besides her, but there are others that I don't quite.
But she imitated. Then she said, Pyare Prabhu will say what she's saying. I was laughing. I told Damodar sir also just 2-3 days back. She really wants to go to the temple. So that's why she's saying, I'll ask him, make it 4, not 16.
Yeah, almost the same. Make it 4. So 3 years and younger can't come. I mean, we might make an exception at 14. But anyways, that's nice. She wants to come.
He was saying that this verse is in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
He was saying a few verses. That's what I wanted to say.
That's Madhulila. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It does mention the Mahaprakash. Maybe not as much
I know,
detail, but it's
I know.
mentioned.
I know.
Krishna Das
Jiva is
Kaviraj-
finding fault with you, Omeo. She's just finding things you said aren't in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that are in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It might not have as many details, but they are there.
Yes, those are highlights. I mean, Mahaprakash Leela in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhu.
What?
Sorry, you say? Mahaprakash pastime is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you say?
Yeah, it's mentioned.
Yes.
Maybe he didn't give as much detail because it was already given in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. He didn't want to.
You didn't have to write it over again.
Right, right.
The
And
book is already.
it's okay to have a favorite book. It's okay.
It's also the Yare Deka, you quoted that verse, that's also in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
जारे देखता है कह कृष्ण उपदेश.
No, that's not what I said. I said Adbhutek Mandir Hoibe Prakash. It's talking about Mayapur temple,
Oh,
as I predicted. And
I thought you said this verse too. You
and,
said this verse too.
I thought you said that verse.
Yeah.
We have this taped, is this taped?
yes, it is. I did not say that.
Yes.
Prabhu. Yeah, and I said I
We'll
said pretty
look at it and discuss next week. That's fine. Everyone is winning. Everyone won.
no, it's not about
I
winning.
think
It's not about winning.
Everyone won.
I think he said about Adbhut Mandir.
Yes, I
Yeah,
said
but
about
Mahaprakash Leela also is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's what I remembered because I have read it but a little long.
Yeah,
Yes.
he did say Mahaprakash Leela also.
Yes, I did say that.
Anyway,
Yes.
it's okay, we don't want to bother Omeo because Nanda Gopal's getting upset.
But
No,
there's also things in Chaitanya Charitamrita that may not be in the Chaitanya Bhagavat.
yes, yes,
That-
Mataji. Yes.
That doesn't mean that it's not perfect and complete. They're both perfect and complete because they're describing the perfect and complete.
Okay, Mataji, I'm so sorry for the improper.
Only due to our limitedness that we see imperfections.
No, I'm sorry, Mataji, for my improper word using, and that's not what I meant. All I meant to say, and I still don't understand that all the pastimes are not there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's a factual statement, I think.
I
And
wouldn't
most
even
of,
go as far to say that.
I'm sorry,
Maybe
Mataji.
I wouldn't even go as far to say that. Maybe they're there in a seed form. I don't think you can limit the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's ever expanding. It's unlimited. It's eternal.
Yes,
Everything is there. You just have to have the eyes to see it.
yes, I certainly
Hari
don't have.
bol.
Omeo has a soft corner for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We all know that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
His
good.
worshipable deity.
That's good. We all should. Good.
And that's what bothers me. Like, how can one love, someone,
Somebody
even if he's
else.
Supreme Lord, without knowing the
You're not
pastimes?
seeing
That's the only.
that is also Chaitanya. Chaitanya is Krishna. Krishna is Chaitanya. Don't limit him.
Okay. If devotees decide to choose not to read Gaur Lila, that's up to them. It's okay.
If they read
Yes.
Chaitanya Charitamrita, that is Gaura Lila. And if you think there's not enough in there to develop your love for Krishna, then that's your mistake.
The Bhagavatam is Gaur Lila. Lord Chaitanya heard the Bhagavatam every day from Gadadhar Pandit. That was his pastime. That's Gaur Lila right there. Don't limit
Sure.
it.
Can I change the topic?
No,
No.
We're just getting started.
yeah, you can change the topic.
No, I found the verse where it was not in Bhagavatam, it was in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I get confused because I read all these books, at least one verse per night. But it was in Adi Lila, text 86, because I'd recently read it. It says, Lord Chaitanya's parents, after this conversation, both husband and wife were very jubilant, and together they rendered service to the household Shaligram Shila. And then it says, especially in every Brahmana's house, there must be a Shaligram Shila to be worshipped by the Brahmana family. This system is still current. People who are Brahmanas by caste, who are born in a Brahmana family, must worship the Shaligram Shila. Unfortunately, with the progress of Kali Yuga, the so-called Brahmanas, although they are very proud taking birth in Brahmana families, no longer worship the Shaligram Shila. And actually, it has been a custom since time immemorial that a person born in a Brahmana family must worship the Shaligram Shila in all circumstances. In our Krishna conscious society, some of the members are very anxious to introduce worship of the Shaligram Shila But we have purposely refrained from introducing it because most of the members of the Krishna conscious movement do not originally come from families of the Brahmana caste. After some time, when we find that they are actually situated strictly in the line of Brahminical behavior, Shaligram Shila worship will be introduced. So it does say that we should worship, but then
Wait, it does say what?
that Shaligram Shila should be worshipped by Brahmanas. In
Right.
this stage, but it also says in the next sentence, in this stage, the worship of Shaligram Shila is not as important as chanting the holy name of the Lord.
Right.
That is the injunction of the Shastra. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam kalau nasteva nasteva gatiranyata. Sri Govaswami's opinion is that by chanting the holy name offenselessly, one becomes completely perfect.
Yes. That's a fact.
Wow.
I know. I think about when Prabhupada was here, the only time there were fire sacrifices were for initiations, weddings, and deity installations. I don't remember any other reason there would be a fire sacrifice. And now, because the chanting is the holy names is all we need. Even when the deities were installed in Vrindavan, they got many Brahmins to chant the mantras, to do everything. And it took a long time to get it all done. And Prabhupada said that we had to do that because otherwise we wouldn't be accepted by the local people as bona fide. But actually, all we had to really do to install the deities is chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah. And the next sentence, it says, nevertheless, just to purify the situation of the mind, worship of the deity in the temple is also necessary. So,
Right.
to prove your point.
I know, but that, and if you were here, when Prabhupada was here, you knew these things. He said these things. We knew, but now, it's not so bad. People are worshiping deities, but it's just part of, just some of the things are changing. That's all. But I know what Prabhupada wanted.
Yeah, so what I read was not the deity, but the Shaligram Shila is what
Right. And we have a lot of Shaligram Shilas.
you do, and they're beautiful.
Jiva worships them. That was another thing. Can women worship Shaligram Shilas? And we found yes was the answer. And I don't remember where, but Jiva, I'm sure, remembers. But anyway, it's Kali Yuga. The main thing is still chanting, whether you worship Shaligram Shilas, whether you worship the deities, whether you read Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat, or both of them ideally. There's I also read Chaitanya Bhagavat. I didn't read the whole thing though. I don't think I even had the whole thing. But I'm back reading.
We read it.
Did we read it?
Yeah.
Okay, we both read it.
Yeah, it's good.
Because I usually read things in class. Well, besides, because it's only two of us, so we read the Bhagavatam and then I read some of another book. So I guess that's how we did the Chaitanya Bhagavat. But my mind, I don't remember it so much. I remember a lot of pastimes, but I don't remember where I got them from. Okay, so now it's already late, and Nanda Gopal is feeling a lot of anxiety, not because it's late, it's just all the tension. So we want to try to, let's just shanti.
Shanti, shanti.
It's okay to have a favorite book.
It's definitely okay to have a favorite book. But we shouldn't put down another book because it's not our favorite.
Let's not start over.
I can't help it. She started it. Okay, let's offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees.
Vaishnaveभ्यो नमो
Hare
अनंत
Krishna.
कोटि वैष्णव
जगद्गुरु
श्री प्रभुपाद की जय
His
प्यारे मोहन प्रभु की
प्रभु की
जय
जय।
Hare
Hare Krishna.